I found it quite strange to watch, actually. It was a little bit like watching The Real Housewives of LA rather than something to do with the monarchy, because that's just not what happens with the royal family in this country. They don't complain and they don't explain. That's why the no comment thing, I think, really bothered Meghan in particular, because she doesn't come from that background. Because, they just put up with things being written about them. They don't respond to lots of media speculation. But I mean, there were a couple of alarming things about it. Obviously, if anyone is feeling suicidal, I think it's absolutely vital that people support them and they get the help they need. I don't care whether they're a duchess or a dustbin man. That is just essential. And when you could think about the work that the young royals in particular have been doing on mental health, I must say I was a little bit surprised that they wouldn't know who to go to in that respect. But the thing that's actually really really raising questions is the comments about Archie's skin colour. I mean, if that's true, that's outrageous. And I think we need to know who said it, because I don't want to pay for them. I don't want to pay for a racist. And I know lots of other people don't.
Of that claim, do you think perhaps it was a perception issue that, yes, those comments were made, but it's Meghan who is making the link between her son not getting a title or security and the colour of his skin? Is that possible?
So I must say this part of the interview actually had me shouting at the TV. If I hadn't been watching it so I could speak to you guys, I probably would have switched it off, because it had absolutely nothing to do with the colour of Archie's skin. It's actually down to protocol by George V that only the children and the grandchildren of the reigning monarch get given titles. The reason the Cambridge children have a title is because the Queen issued letters patent. So when Charles becomes king and Archie and new baby Sussex, girl Sussex, move up and become grandchildren of the monarch, then it changes. With regards to security, again, I found that quite odd. The palace doesn't decide who gets security or not. That's an issue. There's a royal and diplomatic service within the Metropolitan Police in particular that does that. People the policemen who guard the embassies, things like that. And primarily, I really would expect for a newborn child not to need separate security, because I would imagine that they would be with their parents as well. So I think there are two separate issues here. I think she's conflating something that maybe she doesn't understand about royal protocol with an outrageous comment that someone allegedly made. And I'm going to say the word allegedly because, we don't know who it was, and I wasn't there to witness it, and no one was.
No, that's exactly right, Annabelle. I guess what it has done is serve to highlight the protocols within the royal family, and you're right, you say she doesn't understand the protocols, but I think in 2021 a lot of the modern world don't quite understand the protocols that still exist within the royal family. Has this interview served to show how outdated some of those protocols may be?
I think if you have a look in June at Royal Ascot, at the Trooping of the Colour, and those kinds of events, you will see that actually there are a lot of people who like it. I've been to Garden Party. I've go to Royal Ascot myself. You have to, the hat. You have to get your straps of your dress measured. Your hat has to be a certain size. You can't wear a fascinator. That's part of the fun of it. I would find it really weird curtsying to my grandmother, but my grandmother wasn't the Queen. And it is the way it is. And when you marry into that royal family, I think you have to accept, because it's not just, she said it was like a family business. And she also made this really interesting point that it was then that she realised that they weren't just famous people, because the crown isn't about celebrity, it's about an ancient institution going back to Edward the Confessor's chair in Westminster Abbey. It's something that is magical and mystical and quite frankly bizarre, but I don't think it's for a newcomer to come in and say, well, that's strange.
Yeah, really interesting. And let me play devil's advocate for a moment, because I too love tradition, but I would find it difficult if you were Meghan and you had such freedoms, being a Canadian, living a relatively normal life. Yes, she was famous, a famous actress, but going into the royal family, she obviously loves Harry, but wasn't quite aware that she was signing up for, I guess, a few more strict rules around what her life would be. Why does it need to remain? Why can't it change? I mean, she said she didn't leave the house, or left the house twice in 4 months. Is that what happens?
Again, it kind of, I was listening to the audio book of Finding Freedom, and, and again, there are lots of things that don't quite add up with that, and, seeing Kate going to the King's Road, going shopping together and things like that. Yes, they can change, but I think it's for the country and the institution itself to decide. I don't think it's for one person to decide. I can imagine that it's really difficult, especially when you're passionate like Meghan about, issues like women's rights. And, it was really great to hear her speaking out about those kind of things, especially on, well, today it's still International Women's Day here. But I think what it really did highlight, that the reason the Sussexes left the royal family, frontline royalty, and moved to America, it wasn't really a question of privacy. I think it was really a question that they wanted the right to reply, which if you're in the royal family, you don't have.